What's up, VC? It is time for a vinyl update. I'm going to run through the records I picked up in the last couple months. The first one is a record I'm really excited about. Of course, if you watched one of my previous videos, you know me talking about this album. This is Love Forever Changes. One of the greatest and most underrated of all the 60s rock albums. I fell in love with this album this summer through the Rhino version mastered by, I believe, Chris Bellum cut it. Incredible analog pressing that Rhino put out. But, you know, it gets better and better. Mobile Fidelity decided they were going to do a double 45 version. And, I mean, it blew me away. The Rhino is great. It's a great pressing. It really is. And if you don't feel like blowing $50 on a record, the Rhino is a great option. But this Mobile Fidelity, I mean, it's really the best version of this album you're ever going to hear. And it's such a great, dynamic, and well-recorded album. I think, you know, it definitely deserved the MoFi treatment, and I'm really happy they did it. Up next, we have, I think this is I want to say this is the sophomore album of Van de Graaff Generator, but they've released a lot, so I don't know their discography that well. But this is one of the earlier Van de Graaff Generator albums, and it is a later UK press on the Plain Blue Charisma label. But you know, a UK press on this label is going to be much better than any American press you could get your hands on, even if it is an earlier one. I picked this up, and most of these albums, not all of them, but most of the albums I'm going to show you today, I actually picked up on a trip to Phoenix, and I stopped at a really amazing store called Record High in Phoenix. It's basically an audiophile-centered record store. The guys who run it are super knowledgeable. They have they have a couple amazing sounding systems in there for you to listen to the records on. They've got tons of great stuff, audiophile, jazz, Blue Note, Music Matters, classic records. They got a bunch of Mobile Fidelity. They got a huge wall of rare old, you know, MoFi presses, you know, things like that. They've got you know, they really know what they're doing, and they're really curating their stock quite well. So I was able to, you know, I couldn't buy everything I wanted to there, but I was able to walk away with a ton of great stuff. This Van de Graaff Generator album is one I've been always looking for UK pressings of prog rock because they are hard to get. Got another Van de Graaff Generator UK pressing that I found there. This one is also on that same I think it's like mid to late 70s Blue Charisma label. UK pressing of Van de Graaff Generator's Pawn Hearts. This is probably my favorite Van de Graaff Generator album. This is a really good one. I had a US pressing, but, you know, this is going to sound a lot better, I think. Really great example of the heyday of UK prog rock. Let's see here. This is a U.S. pressing. This is Renaissance's album, Turn of the Cards. I recently got turned on to Renaissance. Someone showed me one of their albums, and I figured it was a band I need to get into. You know, it's good stuff. I wish it had a little bit more forward drive, but it is, you know, beautiful music. It's very good prog rock. It's not sealed anymore, obviously, because I play my records, but you know, I bought this at Record High in Phoenix, and it was sealed. It was an original sealed U.S. pressing, so that was kind of cool. You know, no chance of it being too beat up. Also picked this up at Record High. This is an original U.S. press of Blondie's Eat to the Beat. The nice thing about these Blondie records is you can get an original pressing for not a lot of money. You know, they go for about $7-8. So, and the original pressings sound really good. You know, I like the early Blondie stuff. I like pretty much everything up until Auto American. That's where they kind of lost me. But, you know, it's good. It's one of the few new wave bands that I enjoy. We'll round up the last of the rock and roll here. This is an album that takes me back. I'm so happy I finally have this on vinyl. This is the debut album, the self-titled album by the band The Used. On Double 45, actually. They just recently reissued their first two albums. And, you know, The Used, what can I say about The Used? The Used were a band I loved in middle school and high school. I remember listening to this around the time it came out, maybe a year later, when I was in, when did I start listening to The Used? Maybe 5th grade, 6th grade, around that time. One of the first kind of post-hardcore bands I started listening to. Maybe I started listening to them in middle school. I think I started listening to The Used in middle school. But yeah, I mean, so many classic tracks on here. Really, and you know, it's not like I'm listening to it for nostalgia reasons. It really is a great example of early 2000s post-hardcore. A different kind of classic record. This is Spirit of Versailles is Dead. Spirit of Versailles were a early 2000s. I think they did one or two releases in the late 90s, but late 90s, early 2000s screamo band. Very underground, but they're considered one of the classic bands in the genre. This is their only full-length album they ever put out, called Is Dead. And prior to this release, which just came out last year, it had only been available on a CD-ROM, not even a regular CD. They'd only released it as a CD-ROM in like 2001 or something. And so this finally got the treatment on vinyl. You know, obviously, it's not going to be an audiophile pressing, but it was never audiophile recordings to begin with. It's just really, really great classic screamo. So Spirit of Versailles is Dead. Moving on to classical music. Got here a 2i Columbia pressing of Bruno Walter conducting Dvorak Symphony No. 4, which, because this is an older recording, Symphony No. 4, they really mean Symphony No. 8. The Dvorak symphonies were renumbered because they finally published his earlier symphonies, so they couldn't use... what was called 5 is now called 9, what was called 4 is now called 8, what was called 3 is now called 7, etc., etc. But yes, Bruno Walter conducting Dvorak, really Symphony No. 8 with the Columbia Symphony Orchestra. These Bruno Walter Columbia Symphony recordings are incredible. They're some of my favorite. If you're looking for great recordings of like very meat and potatoes romantic repertoire, you really can't go wrong with Bruno Walter. Bruno Walter was a master Dvorak interpreter, Brahms, Beethoven. Bruno Walter's Beethoven is incredible. And he's a conductor that's not really talked about enough nowadays. I really think he was a master. One of my favorite conductors to listen to. More Dvorak. This is an original wideband Decca London Blueback. See the wideband here. What they mean when they say wideband, you know, I think I've mentioned this before, but I've never actually shown you. What they mean when they say wideband is the full frequency stereophonic sound label on London/Decca Records. They mean it goes all the way to the edge of the label. This silver band will go all the way to the edge of the label because, you know, later on in the mid to late 60s, they switched to a label where the band stopped about here. And then it didn't go all the way to the record. So that's how you can tell if it's an earlier pressing on the Deccas. And also the jacket, you know, the early ones are bluebacks. So ideally you want a blueback with a wideband label. Those are the two most collectible. Anyway, I haven't even told you what record this is yet. This is Rafael Kubelik, another great conductor, one of my favorite conductors, conducting the Vienna Philharmonic. Dvorak Symphony No. 5 from the New World. So, of course, you know from the title, when I say Symphony No. 5, it's actually Symphony No. 9. That's what we refer to it nowadays. But they help you out. It's from the New World Symphony. Dvorak's most famous work, arguably. Not arguably, it is his most famous work. This is a great recording. Kubelik was a really good Dvorak conductor. I really like his Symphony No. 7 with Berlin. I think it's an incredible recording. His Symphony 9 with Berlin is also very, very good. And I honestly didn't know he did a Symphony 9 with Vienna, but he did. I think I like his recording with Berlin better musically. However, this sounds incredible because, of course, it's a Decca Blueback wideband. Generally, if I see a Decca record that's in good condition and it's a piece that I even might enjoy, I pick it up if the price is right, because you really you can't go wrong with early Decca stereo recordings. They really sound incredible. I have another Decca record here. Again, with Kubelik and the Vienna Philharmonic, this is Brahms Symphony Number 1. Again, wideband blueback. Just is in mint condition. Yeah, they had a really cool classical section at Record High in Phoenix. So spent a lot of time in the classical section there. I wish I could have explored that store more, but I was on kind of a time crunch. I was just in Phoenix for like 36 hours. So, and the last record I picked up at Record High in Phoenix, and it's another classical record. This is a new recording, recorded in 2013, released in 2014 by Reference Recordings. This is Saint-Saëns Symphony Number 3 with the Kansas City Symphony. It's really awesome that people are still doing analog recordings in classical music. I'm happy Reference Recording put this out. Symphony Number 3, which is quote unquote the organ symphony, is a really powerful and dynamic symphony that deserves a high fidelity treatment. The recording that I think is the most famous, that at least in terms of fidelity, that I think of when I think of this symphony, is the Munch Boston recording, which was recently reissued by Analog Productions, and they did an incredible job. It's Living Stereo, their Analog Productions RCA Living Stereo reissue series. So, if you've never heard the piece before, I would say pick up that one, because it is a fantastic recording, and it's a legendary recording that if you want an introduction to the piece, I would listen to that one. This is a great recording too, but I mean the Munch Boston recording is the standard. It's the legendary one. However, this sounds amazing. It really, they did it at 45 RPM, so you can get so much dynamics, so much bass resonance. You really feel like you're in the hall with this one. It's everything you can ask for in a classical audiophile recording. So, Saint-Saëns Symphony Number 3, conducted by Michael Stern, Kansas City Symphony. And that is all the records I picked up over the last, since August. So, thanks for watching, VC, and I hope to do more videos for you soon.